problem now is future peace. Just as American soldiers had to give their lives in the last generation, so other American soldiers, our sons, might have to do it again in the next generation. Germany today appears to be beaten. Hitler, out. Swastikas, gone. Nazi propaganda, off the air. Concentration camps, empty. There are ruins. There are flowers. There's some mighty pretty scenery. Don't let it fool us. It's still enemy country. We must still be alert. We must still be suspicious of everyone. We must take no chances. We're up against something more than tourist scenery. We're up against German history. It isn't good. This book was written chapter by chapter, not by one man nor one Fuhrer. It was written by the German people. Chapter 1, the Fuhrer, Bismarck. The title, Blood and Iron. The armies, German. Under the Prussian Bismarck, the German Empire was built. The German states combined, serving notice to all that their religion was iron and that their God was blood. Bismarck's German Empire built itself by war. At the expense of Denmark, Austria, and France, it became in 1871 the mightiest power in all Europe. Enough conquest for a while. Time out to digest it. Europe relaxes. The danger's over. Nice country, Germany. Tender people, the Germans. Very sweet music indeed. Chapter 2, a new Führer, Kaiser Wilhelm. New title, Deutschland über alles, Germany over all. And the same tender German people slapped us with their World War I against Serbia, Russia, France, Belgium, Italy, Britain, and the United States of America. It took all of us to do it, but we finally knocked that Führer out, defeated the German armies. Second chapter ended. We marched straight into Germany and said,
"These people are okay. It was just the Kaiser we had to get rid of. You know, this is really some country. When it comes to culture, they lead the whole world."
We bit, we poured in our sympathy, we pulled out our armies, and they flung chapter 3 in our faces. Führer number 3. Slogan number 3, today Germany is ours. Tomorrow, the whole world. And the tender, sorry German people carried the torch of their culture to Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, France, England, Norway, Holland, Denmark, Belgium, Luxembourg, Russia, Yugoslavia, Greece, and the United States of America. We almost lost this one. It took everything we had. Measure the cost in money. There isn't that much money. Measure the cost in lives. You can only guess at that figure. It took burning, scalding, drenching. It took legs, fingers, arms, and it took them by the millions. It cost hours, days, and years that will never return. It ruined the health and wealth of our youth, their past and their future. It took every ounce of our courage and guts. Now what happens?
Oh, this is where we came in.
Yeah, this is where we came in. And chapter 4 will be, it can happen again. Could be the next war. That's why we occupy Germany, to make that war impossible. No easy job, We must keep our wits about us. The German lust for conquest is not dead. It's merely gone undercover. Somewhere in this Germany are the SS Guards, the Schutztruppe, the Gestapo gangsters out of uniform. Somewhere in this Germany are stormtroopers by the thousands, out of sight, out of the mob. Somewhere in this Germany, there are 2 million ex-Nazi officials, out of power, but still in there thinking and thinking about next time. Remember that only yesterday, every business, every profession was part of Hitler's system. The doctors, technicians, clockmakers, postmen, farmers, housekeepers, toy makers, barbers, cooks, dock workers. Practically every German was part of the Nazi network. We must guard particularly against this group. These are the most dangerous. German youth, children when the Nazi Party came into power. They know no other system but the one that poisoned their minds. They're soaked in it, trained to win by cheating, trained to pick on the weak. They've heard no free speeches, read no free press. They were brought up on straight propaganda, production of the worst educational crime in the history of the world. Practically everything we believe in, they've been trained to hate and destroy. They believe they were born to be masters and that we are inferiors designed to be their slaves. They may deny it now, but they believe it and will try to prove it again. And that's what we must prevent. However free of the Nazi Party they may seem, however sorry, however sick of it, they cannot come back into the civilized world just by sticking out their hand and saying, we're sorry. Not sorry they caused the war, but only sorry they lost it. That's the hand that heiled Adolf Hitler. That's the hand that held the whip over the Polish, Yugoslav, French, and Norwegian slaves. That is the hand that took the food. That is the hand that starved them. That is the hand that murdered, massacred Greeks, Czechs, Russians. That is the hand that killed and crippled American soldiers, sailors, Marines. That's the hand of a nation dedicated to a career of hate and the ruthless use of force. Sired by sneering, strutting men and bristling lords of war, the plan of the new order, yet older than slavery in ancient Egypt. The plan of perverted propaganda, of pomp and power, of monstrous military might. Mighty with the blood drained from children of the conquered countries to replenish the life of the wounded heroes of the German Wehrmacht. No place in their plan for pity or mercy, but murder had a place in the snow at Malmedy, in a field of horror where 115 Americans were deliberately massacred. And where the scorched earth turned red with Russian blood, a mother's agony fitted the scheme of triumph over helpless hostages. These were the hobnailed pleasures, the unspeakable shame of German superiority over adolescent girls, manhandled and half-stripped, from sin to sacrilege, sparing neither the churches nor the ministers dedicated to the service of God. Of 2,300 priests in only one of the concentration camps, a full 1,000 were arbitrarily put to death. This was a Nazi nightmare of misery, their malignant masterpiece. An entire generation of children conditioned to the sight of dead parents, tortured brothers, violated sisters. Everywhere the ghastly, gruesome gauntlet of plague and the tragic, haunted faces of the ghetto that recall the horrors of the Middle Ages and the medieval tortures of the Inquisition. And while the vanquished wept, remembering home and holy graces, those who worshipped force and all the Nazi doctrines cried Heil, acclaiming German ambitions to dominate the world, and strewed the path with flowers to fragrance boots bestenched by blood, approving war as the most august and sacred of human activities, exulting in a creed that proclaimed the deliberate extermination and monstrous mass murder of all who stood in the way of German plans for supremacy. From the chimneys of Majdanek belched the stink of 1,920 bodies burnt every 24 hours, amassing a total of 1,380,000 victims in this one camp alone. And with typical German efficiency, The ashes of the burnt bodies were mixed with manure to enrich the soil and raise a crop of cabbages grown with human fertilizer that once was someone's husband, wife, and child. The stark testimony of their fate in the bulging warehouses where 820,000 pairs of shoes were counted, where all the pitiful belongings of their victims became the useful property of the Nazi Reich. Even the pathetic tokens of childhood methodically listed and sorted for shipment to Germany. From Poland, Russia, France, Greece, Holland, Denmark, from every nation where men lived in hope of freedom, now nothing remains but a mute paper passport, a mockery of a man's ambitions, the folly of a woman's dreams, the tragic finish of a child's fate. They must not be betrayed by those who hope to secure peace by forgetting war. The voices of millions of dead cry out, "This time we must not have died in vain. This time Germany must not rise again."
But there are millions of Germans. Some of these guys must be okay.
Perhaps, but which ones? It isn't the few. The problem is the many. Someday, the German people might be cured of their disease, the super race disease, the world conquest disease. But they must prove that they've been cured beyond the shadow of a doubt before they ever again are allowed to take their place among the respectable nations. This is what must be remembered by misty-eyed sentimentalists, by soft citizens who speak of a soft peace. We are determined that German plans for world conquest shall stop here and now. We are determined that they shall never again use peaceful industries for warlike purposes, that our children shall never face this German terror, that the vicious German cycle of war, phony peace, war, phony peace, war, phony peace shall once and for all time come to an end. For the disappearance of Hitler and all his henchmen is not enough. Though Berchtesgaden is but an empty shell that marks the heights to which a rabble-rouser could rise from obscurity, the ghosts of Berchtesgaden still walk. Right here in America, the evil spirits of these ghosts still haunt us, wearing many guises as they continue with Hitler's aims and purposes, spreading the violent propaganda of race hatred and violence. And the seeds spread by these disordered minds, unfortunately, are taking root in many fanatical brains. Like Hitler's gang, they thrive on persecution, hatred, and violence. They hope for reconversion to be handled badly. They hope for unemployment. They hope that America will fail in solving the crucial post-war problems. They hope for a disillusioned America so that they may set up their own Messiah, just as Hitler was set up out of internal conflict and anxiety to breed race hatred and violence. These are verily the ghosts of Berchtesgaden here in America, working secretly and openly all the way from the floors of Congress through every walk of our nation's life, even desecrating the holy cloth, posing as men of God while they seek to destroy the hopes of humanity. In this crucial time, we, the people of America, hold our future and our children's future in our own hands. And no small men must be permitted to destroy our sound American thinking, our democratic heritage of national unity. They tried it here in America, took American children and tried to instill the same evil spirit of fascism here, with brazen contempt as they flaunted their so-called superior system in our very faces, as they practiced for the day when they would rule America, tried to break down the democratic ideals of the youth of our nation, where children of all races can meet on common ground, inspired by a heritage of clean living and the principles of fair play and honor. The youth of our nation must not be suppressed. A child in this country must have the right to be a child while undertaking the other job of growing up to be an adult. The youth of our nation must not be regimented and pressed into the mold of pack-carrying, goose-stepping soldiers. And to defeat them, it took those who loved freedom. On the field of battle against fascism in Italy, Germany, and Japan, It was men of all faiths who fought and died together that we might live. They fought side by side without questioning the color of their skins or the religions of their fathers. And it's not enough that the representatives of the united world of tomorrow be dedicated to the task of making good the sacrifices of free men who hope to build a better world. The people themselves must stand by these leaders. We must so earnestly desire peace that we will not only demand it, but work for it incessantly. Then only, out of the solemn hours of deliberation, will be created a sound and practical international unity dedicated to the ideals of freedom, greatness, and security for all. A heritage that shall be guaranteed for the sons and daughters of the men, living and dead, who so truly earn the fruits their children are entitled to reap in the united world of tomorrow, the world of lasting freedom between all nations.